Hello everyone. Today we'll discuss about the metabolism at different states of the body, part 1. Now first of all, what is metabolism? Thousands of the chemical reactions are taking place inside a cell in the body in an organized, well coordinated and purposeful manner, and all these reactions are collectively known as the metabolism. Now also the balance between the need and the mobilization of the stored energy is known as the metabolic homeostasis, and there are basically 4 factors that actually affect the metabolic homeostasis. They are, first of all, the intake of nutrients, then second is the rate of metabolism of the different tissues, third is the storage and the mobilization, and the fourth is the hormonal regulation. Now we have basically 3 main types of metabolic pathways in our body, that is the catabolism, anabolism and the amphibolic pathway. Now we all know that what are these. Just go into these in short. Now first of all, what is catabolism? It is basically the degradation pathway in which the macromolecule converted into micro or the small subunits, releasing an ATP or energy compound. Okay. Now next is the anabolism. In this there is biosynthesis of the big or the macromolecules from the micromolecules with the help of the ATP or energy. In the amphibolic pathway, there is crossroads of the metabolism in which the anabolism and the catabolism, both the pathways are linked together and occurring simultaneously. Now the stages of metabolism, we have basically 3 main stages. Now in the first stage what happens is there is digestion in the GIT occurring, and in which the macromolecules are basically converted into small subunits. For example, as you can see, the protein is actually converted into amino acid, right? So in the first stage, this is a primary metabolism. Now then these products in the step 2, what happens is, then whatever the product that are formed in the stage 1 are absorbed, catabolized to the smaller subunits and ultimately oxidized to carbon dioxide. The reducing equivalents are mainly generated in the mitochondria and basically by the 2 main processes, that is the citric acid cycle and the final common oxidative pathway. Now remember, in this process, in the step 2 and in this process, remember 2 main structures are formed, that is the NADH and the FADH2. Okay, and this step is basically known as the secondary or the intermediary metabolism. Now last stage, third stage, in this whatever the compounds were formed in the stage 2, they are basically entering into the ETC or the electron transport chain mechanism, where the energy, okay, from all these structures are basically released. Okay, and this is known as the tertiary metabolism or the internal respiration or cellular respiration. Now we all know whatever the food we eat, we get 3 basic structures from the food. The carbohydrate basically enters the glycolysis pathway, okay, and they are basically converted into the acetyl-CoA. The carbohydrate metabolism is centered around the glucose and is mainly responsible for the provision of energy in the body. Remember, the carbohydrates and the lipids are the basic source of energy in the body and not the proteins. Remember, the proteins are basically the body building subunits or the body building bricks of the body, the proteins. Okay, they will provide very less energy. Okay, but the carbohydrates and the lipids are the main source of energy in the body. And one more thing is that if the body start using proteins as the energy unit, that means at that time your body is actually degrading, because at that time the carbs and the lipids in your body are very less, so the body is actually using your body building units, that is the protein, and now your body is in the state of degradation. Now next is the lipid metabolism. The lipid are basically converted into glycerol and fatty acids, and then by the beta oxidation it is doing the same pathway. And the proteins are basically converted into amino acids, okay, and they are basically the main body building units of the body. So this was the overall view of the metabolism. Now what happens in a metabolic profile when you are in the fed up stage, means you have eaten something. So under well fed up condition, there is continuous supply of nutrients from the intestine into the bloodstream. The glucose, fatty acids and the amino acid enter into the bloodstream. Okay, and the influence of the insulin secreted from the pancreas, glucose is basically utilized by the peripheral tissues and stored as glycogen in the tissues as well as in the liver. Okay, now excess glucose is converted into the fat. Remember, whatever the glucose you are eating, whatever glucose in your food is there, they are first of all converted into the glycogen. Okay, and they are stored in the form of glycogen in your body. Okay, but if there is excess glucose in your food, so that particular glucose is converted into the fat, okay, and stored in the adipose tissue as triacylglycerol or TAG. Now what about the amino acid? The amino acid are utilized for protein synthesis. Now we have one ratio known as the insulin glucagon ratio. Now this insulin glucagon ratio actually determines that if the particular reaction will be catabolic or anabolic. Now if the insulin glucagon ratio is high, at that time a body is actually performing the anabolism. So remember, in the fed up condition there will be high means increased insulin glucagon ratio, so of course there will be anabolic pathway occurring in the fed up condition. Now the enzymes which are actually activated during the fed up condition are basically three. That is, the glycolytic enzyme help in the glycolysis pathway. Then the glycogen synthase, they actually converts the glucose into glycogen. And the next is the acetyl-CoA carboxylase. This basically converts the acetyl-CoA into malonyl-CoA. And if in your body the amount of malonyl-CoA is increased, that suggests that there will be inhibition of the beta oxidation of fatty acid. So remember, malonyl-CoA actually inhibits the beta oxidation of fatty acid or breaking down of the fatty acid. Now the inhibited enzymes over here would be the pyruvate carboxylase. Now over here the pyruvate carboxylase actually converts the pyruvic acid or the pyruvate into oxaloacetic acid. Now next is the PEP-CK, means the first phenyl pyruvate creatinine kinase. Now this enzyme basically converts the oxaloacetic acid into PEP or the first phenyl pyruvate and the CO2. Now the fructose 1,6 biphosphate, now this enzyme basically converts the fructose 1,6 biphosphate into fructose 6-phosphate. Now the glucose 6-phosphate is basically converts the glucose 6-phosphate into glucose. Now this is a very important enzyme known as the glycogen phosphorylase. Now this enzyme basically converts the glycogen into glucose 1-phosphate. Now this is the basic reaction occurring in the body when you actually urgently need energy. Now the glycogen phosphorylase, this is very important, remember. Now next is the hormone sensitive lipase. Now this enzyme basically helps in the mobilization of the stored fats. Now the CAT or the carnitine acyl transferase 1 enzyme, this enzyme basically helps in the beta oxidation of fatty acid. Now next is the metabolic profile during the fasting condition. Now after an overnight fast, the blood glucose level in the body is of course very low, and that blood glucose in the body actually maintained by the glycogenolysis and the gluconeogenesis occurring in your body, especially in your liver. Okay, now if the period of fasting is continued and is prolonged, the fatty acid are actually mobilized from the adipose tissue under the influence of the glucagon. The available glucose is basically utilized by the tissues like brain, red blood cells and the kidney or the renal cortex that actually have an obligatory requirement of the glucose. The glucagon concentration becomes high during the fasting condition, and of course there will be decrease in the insulin glucagon ratio and there will be catabolism occurring during the fasting condition. Now the enzymes actually activated in the fasting condition are, first of all, the glycogen phosphorylase, very important enzyme whenever you need urgent glucose in your body. Then the acetyl-CoA carboxylase, hormone sensitive lipase, CAT1, and the gluconeogenic enzyme basically present inside the liver of your body, because this enzyme basically helps in the formation of the glucose by the use of many of the amino acids. Now the inhibited enzymes are the glycogen synthase, help in the formation of the glycogen, so that's why over here we need glucose, right? So this enzyme are basically inhibited over here. Then the acetyl-CoA carboxylase, so that the malonyl-CoA is not formed. Okay. Now what happens in your body after you eat or have your breakfast? Means after the whole night fasting, what happens in your body after your breakfast? Now after the breakfast, the fat is basically transported from your intestine as chylomicrons. And what about the glucose? The glucose is basically taken up by the tissues of your body except your liver, because your liver is still in the mode of gluconeogenesis. Okay, so that's why except the liver, all the tissue in the body will take up the glucose from your breakfast. If more glucose is basically available, the liver glycogen is replenished. Okay, and excess is basically converted into fat. Now the metabolic adaptation during the starvation. Now when the state of fasting basically progresses to starvation, metabolic adaptation occur in all the tissues of your body. Now very important thing is that the glycogen stores are depleted by the end of 18 to 24 hours. So now the only source of glucose available in the body is the gluconeogenesis occurring in the liver, because now the glycogen is basically depleted after 24 hours. So now the only source of energy is glucose, and only source of glucose is gluconeogenesis in the liver. Now the substrate for gluconeogenesis is provided mainly by the alanine released from the muscle, and glycerol is basically released by the lipolysis. Now what is actually occurring in this process, we'll talk about this in detail. Now first of all, we have 5 stages. Now first of all, in the stage 1. Now in the stage 1, what happens is, during the fasting, at first the blood glucose level is basically maintained by the hepatic glycogenolysis. Glycogen is basically converted into the glucose. Okay, and the glycogen stores are sufficient for about 18 to 24 hours only, and the primary requirement for glucose is to meet the demands of, first of all, the brain, so that you don't get unconscious and then to coma or death. Now next stage is about the gluconeogenesis. And the second step, what happens is, gluconeogenesis actually accelerates and starts in your body even before the glycogen stores are depleted. Now the amino acid released from your muscles forms the major substrate for the gluconeogenesis. I told you before only that the alanine are basically used as the main source or main substrate in your gluconeogenesis pathway. Now the amino nitrogen is transferred from the other amino acid to the pyruvic acid to form the alanine. Now this alanine actually acts as a very important substrate. Why? Because the amino group reaches to the liver as alanine only, and this amino group is very important for the formation of the glucose in your liver, where this particular alanine is converted into the pyruvic acid by the help of the deamination process. Okay, and the pyruvic acid is converted into glucose, okay, by the help of the reverse of the glycolysis pathway. Now apart from the alanine, glutamic acid or the glutamate is also actually serving as a very important mode of transport of amino acid to the liver from the muscle. Simple, remember, in this process what happens is, there is transferring of the amino group from the other amino acid to the pyruvic acid in the muscle. Now this pyruvic acid, by the help of transamination process, converts into the alanine, and the alanine is actually helping as a transporting agent and converts the amino group over, and actually helps to transport the amino group into the liver, where the alanine basically converted into pyruvic acid, and the pyruvic acid converted into glucose. Okay, and this glucose actually helps in your body energy accomplishment. Now the branched amino acid, sometimes over here as you can see, branched amino acids are basically transported to the or given to the pyruvic acid to be converted into the alanine. Okay, now remember, first of all, the basic amino acids are basically used, and when still your body requires energy, at that time branched amino acids are basically used, like isoleucine, leucine or the valine. Now remember, brain only uses the glucogenic valine, not the isoleucine or the leucine. So it's a very important MCQ, that which branched amino acid actually used up by the brain. So remember, glucogenic valine is used up by the brain. Now the plasma level of branched chain amino acid reaches a peak by the day 5th of the starvation. Now next is the third stage. Now what happens in this stage? Now the basically lipolysis is the main step in this stage. Now the prevailing state of high glucagon insulin ratio stimulates the catabolic pathway, of course, and because of this catabolism, there is activation or the stimulation of the CAMP or the cyclic adenosine monophosphate. Now because of this, the lipolysis occurs by the way of protein kinase activation and then the hormone sensitive lipase activation. Now because of this HSL activation, there is transportation or the mobilization of the fat from the adipose tissue. Okay, and that will help in the conversion of the triacylglycerol or the TAG from the adipose tissue into the glycerol and free fatty acids. Now what happens over here is, for the stage of 3, the skeletal muscle, heart and the kidney will shut down the glucose utilization completely and will use only lipids or the free fatty acid for their energy requirement accomplishment. Now the stimulation of the activity of the CAT or the kyanine acyl transferase actually occurs. Okay, and this actually favors the beta oxidation of fatty acid. Only before, only the CAT1 basically do the process of beta oxidation of fatty acid, and the increased rate of lipolysis or the beta oxidation actually provides an alternative source of fuel as acetyl CoA, and this acetyl-CoA subsequently forms the ketone bodies. Now after the glucose, the body will actually use the ketone body as the basic energy source. Now the ketone body provide the fuel for tissue like the heart muscles, or we can say skeletal muscles, and to some extent to the brain also. Remember, the brain can use ketone bodies and the glucose, but the brain cannot use lipids. Okay, it cannot use fatty acids. Okay, and one more important thing is that the RBCs can use only glucose. Okay, it is strict glucose material. Why? Because it cannot take either ketone or free fatty acid or anything else except the glucose. So RBC are strict glucose utilizing units. Now it is seen that the brain start utilizing the ketone bodies from the 3rd day of starvation. Okay, and by the 10th day of starvation, about 60% of the energy for the brain is derived only from the ketone bodies only. So very important thing is that the ketone body usage of the brain starts at the 3rd day of starvation, because up till now there is no glucose remaining in the body. Now next stage is the 4th stage. It is basically the acidosis stage. Now what happens over here is this state, the ketogenesis that was actually occurring in the stage 3 cannot continue, or is very indefinite over here. Why? Because there is excess production of the ketone body in the bodies, right? Now this excess ketogenesis or keto body production in the body actually causes the metabolic acidosis, and this will actually cause the decrease in the pH of the body, and actually will cause the hyperventilation. Okay, and that's why the ketogenesis doesn't stay for long. Now last stage, or the 5th stage, is the death from starvation. Now metabolic acidosis and the dehydration that we studied over here, okay, they actually, if they are not corrected up till stage 5, then the death may cause due to coma, okay, and unconsciousness, and due to the lack of energy in the body. Now normal person has a fuel reserve in the body to live up to 45 to 60 days without food. Now remember, these days are actually not confirmed. Why? Because different body or different human being have different state of energy in the body. Okay, so it may range from person to person. Now what happens in your body after you refeed after prolonged starvation? Now over here, the metabolism of the triacylglycerol and the fatty acid occurs as they were during the well-fed stage, and over here remember the lipogenesis occurs. However, the liver switches basically to the gluconeogenesis pathway to produce glucose in your body, so that it can accomplish or fulfill the basic requirement of glucose in the each and every tissue of your body. Also, it will start the formation of the glycogen in your body. Amino acid absorbed from the gut provides the main substrate for the gluconeogenesis in the liver. Now this is the overall view of metabolism. Now in the well-fed stage, let's revise it in short. The glucose basically converted into glycogen in the liver. Amino acid is basically help in the bodybuilding formation in the brain and in the muscles, and the fat is converted into fatty acid, and VLDL, okay, and then is stored in the adipose tissue. Over here there is glycogen formation, and the VLDL, or the we can say storage of the fats occurring during the well-fed stage. Now during the fasting stage and in the high starvation, what happens over here is there is no food. So what will happen? The basic requirement of energy is from the adipose tissue. So adipose tissue will give the free fatty acid, and this free fatty acid actually used by the muscle. Now in the muscle, we all know the alanine is basically used, okay, substrate, and in the gluconeogenesis pathway, and this will actually help in the formation of the glucose in your liver, and some stored glycogen is also there in your liver, so it will also help in the formation of the glucose for your body. Now from this chart we can see that the brain uses only glucose and ketone bodies, and rest all the things can take up fatty acids also apart from glucose and ketone bodies. Now these are the enzymes we actually used up, okay, or actually decrease or increase during the well-fed condition, fasting, or the starvation. Let's go through this once. Okay, now we'll discuss about the metabolic profile of important organs in the body in a further video. So I hope you understood well. Thank you so much.